Hello, everybody. Max Scoville here for IGN with Janet Garcia. We are at E3 2019, and we both got to check out Cyberpunk 2077, one of the biggest games of the show. I got to see the behind closed doors demo, which was a whopping 50 minutes long.
Yep.
A lot of people have seen it. It's very impressive. You saw the one that was being shown on the show floor to fans, and you think it's better.
Yes, I felt like it was a lot more condensed, both in obviously time, like the fan one that was on the show floor was about maybe half an hour, and ours was 50 minutes, the behind closed door. But I felt like it was just a more condensed, accurate experience of what it felt like to play the game. It felt a lot more like I was watching a friend play on the couch and I was waiting for my turn, rather than the longer one. They showed both the hacking and the strength characters a lot more in detail and equally, but I kind of just felt like it was way too much, and I got kind of lost in how much was going on and staring at the character creator and doing like this hack, doing this thing. With something more condensed, I just felt a lot more like an active participant rather than someone that's watching something that's a presentation to try to get me excited about the game.
I think this raises a few interesting questions, not just about Cyberpunk, but also about E3 in general, is that it's really, really hard to demonstrate a video game, especially something as dense as Cyberpunk, because everyone is going to play that game entirely differently. No one person is going to have the same exact experience, and I think CD Projekt is well aware of this. I think last year's demo left a few people kind of just sort of not off-put. It was very impressive, but I thought it leaned very heavily into sort of the action side of things, which, you know, for anybody coming from sort of the Witcher side of things, was like, I want storytelling, I want role-playing. Why are you just shooting dudes in the face? And I think the sort of first-person thing, obviously, is a bone of contention for a lot of people anyway. And to see this thing that we're like, oh, from the makers of this huge, like, you know, Swords and Dragons fantasy game, oh, it's a shooter now, interesting. It's a weird choice, but this time, the big behind closed doors demo, they said up front they really wanted to focus on, like, all of the deep systems and everything. But again, you're sitting in a conference room watching 50 minutes of gameplay of someone else playing, and you're like, but I just want to play it. And then, of course, E3 has been open up to fans, and maybe sitting there for 50 minutes isn't like the best use of time at a convention. So
exactly.
It's cool that they do have this tailored experience that's kind of a little bit more fast-paced and showing off more of it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a game that has sort of a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, and it just felt like a little bit more of a relaxed environment when it was on the show floor, and I feel like that is kind of one of the benefits of having fans at E3 to an extent. Like, people were a lot more excited in the presentation because some of them were actually just fans and not people in the industry. And even though sometimes that can be a little bit cheesy and maybe some people get a little bit too excited, but it was kind of nice to feel like, oh, I'm among other people that are just excited for the sake of being excited about games. And I think that also, having that element was refreshing. And it just made me really looking forward to when they start showing this game off a little bit more in terms of trailers, when we can finally play it at least a little bit somewhere at some point before it comes out. Because everyone just wants to get their hands on this thing. And once we do, we can really start to evaluate, you know, what do we like? What are we playing? What are our individual stories? But yeah, 50-minute presentation. I wasn't that excited, but honestly, after seeing the half-hour one on the show floor, I was more into it.
Yeah, so if you got to see the half-hour presentation, you might have gotten the better experience, and if you're not here at E3, there's a good chance they'll probably release that demo at some point in the near future. As for letting people get hands-on with this game, I feel like that's sort of an impossibility because of how deep and intense and crunchy and sort of, you know, hard to master it might be, depending on everyone's different
and how close the
playstyles.
release date is, too.
Exactly. But the good news is CD Projekt Red will almost definitely be at Gamescom, which is coming up in just a matter of weeks, and IGN will be there. We have lots more coverage coming out of E3 right here on IGN, so keep it here. And I also forgot how to talk because we've been here for 5 days. Thanks for watching.